From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on News Channel 5 Plus. It was like a busy weekend, kind of wacky all around with big-time stuff out there in the sporting world. We had the Ally 400, really NASCAR here all weekend, Truck Series on Friday night. You had the Xfinity race on Saturday afternoon, and then the Ally 400 that was supposed to be kind of an evening race at Nashville Superspeedway on Sunday. Couple different weather delays meant that Chase Elliott finally took the checkered flag just before 11 o'clock. Elliott, of course, is a great story, a kid who grew up really cutting his teeth in racing at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Just like his dad, Bill, the Hall of Famer, did much of his career always coming back to the fairgrounds. That family loves the fairgrounds. They'd like to be there more and more. But Chase able to get a win at Nashville Superspeedway after last year in the first race back for NASCAR. He really had a miserable weekend. He ended up finishing 13th in the race, but then after it was over, he was disqualified for a loose lug nut. So he got nothing out of the weekend last year, comes back this year and makes amends by winning the Ally 400. It's his second victory on the concrete this year, and it puts him in the lead of the points race right now for NASCAR. 17 races in, 12 different winners. It has been a crazy season, but at the moment, Chase Elliott at the top of the heap in terms of the points standings. That wasn't all that was yesterday. We also had the Stanley Cup Final, Game 6. Opportunity for Colorado to win it again after the Lightning were able to go to Colorado and hold off elimination in Game 5, but not last night. The Avalanche really controlled much of that game. It was an absolutely flurry of a start from the Lightning on home ice. Steven Stamkos scored just over 3 minutes into the game to give Tampa a 1-0 lead. The place was buzzing. But essentially from that point on, Colorado settled in, and it was the better team the rest of the way. And it was a fitting ending to what was an absolutely dominant playoff run by the Avalanche. It is not easy to just flip the switch in sports and turn it on when you want. And this was an Avalanche team that through the second half of the regular season really struggled with injuries. Captain Gabriel Landeskog missed the final 23 games of the regular season because Colorado didn't need the end of the regular season. They had the Central Division wrapped up. They had the top seed in the Western Conference wrapped up. There was really nothing to play for other than the President's Trophy. And so they kind of sat a lot of guys, tried to get as healthy as they could, and did a pretty darn good job of that towards the end of the regular season. But they limped into the playoffs. They were not playing their best hockey. And sometimes that comes back to bite teams. You want to be playing your best hockey usually when you go into the Stanley Cup playoffs because the intensity is so different right from the very first puck drop of the postseason. And so oftentimes it's difficult for teams to just flip that switch and turn it on, so to speak. But not for this Colorado team. Preds fans will unfortunately remember back the opening night of the playoffs on May 3rd, Colorado came out and scored 5 goals in the first 15 minutes of that game against the Preds. And so the Avalanche up immediately. They go on to win 7-2. They end up sweeping the Predators, outscoring them 21-9 in 4 games. They take out the Blues in 6. They sweep the Oilers in the Western Conference Final. And then they take on the 2-time Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. It was a difficult battle. The Lightning were game. They certainly did not go down without a fight. But ultimately, the Avalanche were just the best team. A dominant performance in the postseason. They scored 84 goals in 20 games. They go 16-4 overall. It was just simply magnificent. And Cale Makar, who was the Conn Smythe Award winner as MVP of the finals, a postseason that for a defenseman was really special. And I disagree vehemently at the idea that Cale Makar won the Norris Trophy last week as the best defenseman in the league over Roman Josi. The season Roman Josi had in the regular season, and remember these are regular season awards, should have won the Norris Trophy. He was the best statistical season by a defenseman in 3 decades. I don't know how you don't reward that guy with the trophy. But Cale Makar right now is the talent on the blue line that you just pray for. Kind of a once-in-a-generation, if that, type of talent. And what he did in the playoffs, starting with that series against the Predators when he went head-to-head with Josi, and Roman was fine in the series. The Preds did not lose because of the captain. Roman Josi was very good, but Cale Makar was better for Colorado. And he continued that throughout the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that's why he was the Conn Smythe Award winner. And the Avalanche, our champions, hoisting the Stanley Cup for the first time in 21 years. Now, if you're a Preds fan, does that make you feel a little bit better about what happened nearly 2 months ago now in the first round of the playoffs? You know exactly how far away you are. This is the best team in hockey right now. One of the best teams we've seen in some time, I think. Because remember, it's not always the best team throughout the course of the year that wins the Stanley Cup. And you can talk about how great the Lightning were the last couple of years, and they were. But they were great in the postseason themselves. Not always up to that standard in the regular season. And the best team they had in the regular season was actually 3 years ago when they set a record for points in the regular season and then got swept in the first round. The hockey playoffs are difficult to manage. And that, to me, is why it is all the more impressive what Colorado was able to do in turning it on for the playoffs and keeping it at that level for what amounted to be 20 games. 4 series victories and the first Stanley Cup title for Colorado since 2001. If you're a Predators fan, if you're the Predators, you know exactly what you have to do now. This is the team that is the cream of the crop in your division. It's the best team in your conference, and now the best team in the NHL with a 6-game series win over the previous 2-time champion Lightning. Colorado is on top, and it's up to everybody else to figure out how to catch them because, look, they've got some issues with their goaltending. It's not fantastic. But Cale Makar is incredible. Devon Toews is quite the blue line pairing that you go with them. They've got size and physicality back there. They have some wicked lines. Just run off the names. Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen, Nichushkin, Lehkonen. All those guys are big-time players. And they've got some attitude guys on that team. Naz Kadri, I think, brought them a lot, even battling through injury in the playoffs. But this is a very impressive Colorado team, and it's not going to disappear. A lot of that core is there for a while, so you can count on the Colorado Avalanche being a part of the process in the postseason for some time. And now, by the way, if you're the Predators and GM David Poile, we're counting down the days. I mean, July 1st is Friday. Free agency issues in the NHL, a couple weeks away, and still no deal for Filip Forsberg. Will that get done? How important is it that deal get done? I think it's very important, and it sounds like at this point, it's not about the money. It doesn't seem like Forsberg and the representation is trying to break the bank on the contract, at least here in Nashville. So the idea that the two sides remain far apart means that the disagreement is either about the term, the length of the deal, or Forsberg and his representatives want a no-movement clause. David Poile has been pretty adamant about not doing that in his contracts. Pekka had one at the end. Roman Josi has one in his contract. But he doesn't want to do it with other guys. And I get that. But if there is a guy to consider amongst your forwards, I would think it would be Filip Forsberg, a guy who's been here essentially since the beginning. He was originally drafted in Washington, but came here as a teenager in the trade for Martin Erat, one of David Poile's best moves, by the way. Getting Filip Forsberg to come back for a lengthy term at a price that is not what I think he would be able to get on the open market if he's allowed to get there on July 13th. Seems like a fan-friendly, team-friendly deal here. We know Filip Forsberg wants to be in Nashville. We do. We know that. But there is a question now at this point if it's actually going to happen. A year ago, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if Forsberg wanted to be back. I wasn't sure if the Predators would bring him back given the direction they were going. As this season played on, and the way Forsberg played and the season ended, I thought they're going to find a way to get this done, and Forsberg's definitely going to be back. Now at the end of June, I'm not as sure he's again. The confidence has waned, and it is a wait-and-see proposition when it comes to that. And so we will wait with them and continue to discuss here on the program. And then the last thing to get to tonight off the top is Ole Miss winning the College World Series title. And what an incredible run that was. When you think of improbable national championships in college athletics, this one is going to have to go very near the top. I mean, you have to think about this Ole Miss team. It had a ton of talent, and it was number one early on in the season. So people recognize just how good the potential of this team could be. But this was an Ole Miss team that went 14-16 in the SEC. Back in late March, it got swept by Tennessee at home, getting outscored by 20 in a 3-game series. They were utterly dominated. They lost multiple series in a row during the middle of the season. They went to Hoover needing to do some work seemingly on their NCAA tournament resume, and they went one and done, losing to the Vandy boys sort of helplessly 3-1. Yet the next Monday, 4 weeks ago today, Ole Miss got into the NCAA tournament as the last team into the field. And somehow they found another gear. New life gave them new hope and really a new identity. And a team that could never find a rhythm all season long found it. They went down to Coral Gables. They dominated that region, absolutely blew the doors off of Arizona in the regional final, swept through that. They get Southern Miss, a national seed, on the road in a bee's nest environment in the Super Regional, and they sweep that in 2 games, outscoring the Golden Eagles 15-0. They go to Omaha. They go 3-1 in bracket play, and then they sweep Oklahoma in the College World Series Finals. In all, 10 wins in 11 tournament games, outscoring their opponents 82-25. It was a completely different team. Maybe finally living up to the expectation that everybody wanted them to be. But it was a completely different team from where they were. There's an argument to be made that they did not even deserve to be in the NCAA tournament based off of resume, based off of what they accomplished during the regular season. There's an argument to be made that Ole Miss didn't even deserve to be in. But once they got there, they proved exactly how good they were. And the run they made to Omaha and the way they did it in Omaha and the teams they beat along the way and ultimately dogpiling after a sweep of the College World Series Finals against a very game and good Oklahoma team, by the way, shows you how special the run was. And how sweet it is for Ole Miss fans. Think about this. A year ago right now, we were talking about the breakthrough run for Mississippi State, winning its first ever baseball national championship after beating Vanderbilt in the College World Series Finals. First ever title for the Bulldogs. And they got to celebrate it and have bragging rights for 1 year. Because now it is time for Ole Miss and the other half of the Magnolia State to win. And it was the Rebels that dogpiled in Omaha yesterday, and it's the Rebels now that celebrate sitting atop the college baseball world. And oh, by the way, just a little bit more SEC dominance. Ole Miss becomes the 3rd straight SEC team to win. Vanderbilt, of course, did it in 2019 as well. And the 7th SEC national champion in the last 13 years in college baseball. Couple that with college football, in which SEC teams have won 12 of the last 16 national championships. And it's the Conference of Champions. Just means more in the SEC. More titles is what it means. And oh, by the way, we're just a couple years away now from the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, two schools that have won national championships in the 21st century in college football, and two schools that both were in Omaha in the final 8 teams at the College World Series. The Sooners, of course, making it to the finals where it lost to Ole Miss. This is a loaded conference, and it is only going to get more difficult to compete within it. And you're going to see more and more, especially in baseball, I think, where you see teams like Ole Miss. They're kind of middle of the pack of the SEC that have the ability, when they get a new life in the postseason, to really make some noise. It is a credible run that people are going to talk about with Ole Miss for a long time to come. Our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767. Call us up. Join in on the conversation as SportsLine continues on here on News Channel 5+.